Welcome to step 2 on how to sue the credit bureaus. Step 1, we talked about getting your credit report. Step 0, we talked about avoiding arbitration and keeping your case in court. Okay, so here's step 2. You've got your credit reports in hand and you're ready to review them. Let's get started. Hey folks, this is Consumer Protection Attorney Bill Clanton. I've helped thousands of consumers with credit reporting errors, background check errors, debt collection harassment, and all sorts of other consumer-related matters. In this video, we're covering what to do once you've got your credit reports in hand. The first thing you need to do is review each one carefully. There's several large sections of credit reports, and they're all organized a little bit differently. They may have slightly different names or in a slightly different order, but the first thing in most credit reports is your personal information. This will include your name, your date of birth, your social security number, at least the last 4 digits of it, phone numbers, and addresses. Now, if you suspect you're the victim of identity theft or a mixed file, this is a very important area to look at very, very closely. Identity thieves may create what's known as a hybrid identity that uses your first name or your last name and their first name or last name. They may make up a social security number that has your last 4 digits but a different preceding 6 digits. It was a surprise to me to learn that identity thieves often take out apartments and their victims' names. So if there's an unusual address, especially an address in another city or an address you don't recognize, this could be a red flag for identity theft. And believe it or not, sometimes people have more than one social security number on their credit reports. This is a huge red flag for mixed file or identity theft. So the personal information section is a section that needs a lot of attention. You can dispute these things to get old addresses cleared off of your credit report. If you haven't lived there for some time, you don't intend to move back to that address, you can dispute it and have it cleared off your credit report. The next section varies by credit reporting agency. Sometimes it's accounts that are in collections, and sometimes it's accounts that are in good standing. Sometimes they break this down further by mortgage account or installment accounts. But if the next section is accounts in good standing, then look through each of those accounts. You should recognize all of those accounts. You should recognize the balances. You should recognize the payment histories on them. If there's an error in these sections, you should make a note of it in the credit report. The next section, collections accounts. Collections accounts section should accurately reflect the accounts you have that are in collections. If an account appears twice, both in the accounts in good standing and in the accounts in collections with a negative balance, with a negative connotation and a balance in both, and it's being double reported, is something you should dispute, because the same account being reported twice negatively will negatively impact your credit score falsely. Anyways, you should recognize all the accounts that are in collections and the amounts of the accounts that are in collections. If you don't, this could be the basis for a dispute. The next large section of your credit report will be the inquiries. Now, some bureaus break this down by promotional, soft inquiries, and hard inquiries, and that's generally how we think of them here. But a promotional inquiry is an inquiry that a potential creditor does. They will call TransUnion and say, hey, we want to make credit card offers to all the folks who live in Houston who are between ages 40 and 45, have a credit score from 650 to 725. Please give us these names, or please sell us these names and addresses. We're going to make a pre-screened offer of credit. And those folks will get a you've already been pre-approved letter from a credit card bank who issues credit cards. Now, you can opt out of the promotional inquiries, so the bureaus can no longer sell your data. Some people choose to do that, but that's what promotional inquiries are. The next section is soft inquiries. Soft inquiries are your current creditors. You should recognize each person who's made a soft inquiry on your credit report. You'll probably see your credit card company checks your credit report once a month or maybe once a quarter. You'll see, if you've checked on your credit report on Credit Karma, you'll see an entry every day you pulled your Credit Karma credit report. Sometimes the bureaus will have their own soft inquiries on your credit report. The next, and probably the most important section, is hard inquiries. Hard inquiries are when a credit grantor pulls your credit report after you applied for credit. You should recognize every hard inquiry. You should recognize every time you've applied for credit. There's a lot of confusion about the impact of hard inquiries. A hard inquiry can impact your score from between 2 and 5 points. At the time you apply for credit, it will have the most impact. Like I said, as much as 5 points. But they only stay on your credit report for 2 years, and they diminish in impact. So if you today went out and applied for credit, got a hard inquiry in your credit report, then in 6 months it would be less, and in a year it would have almost no impact, and it would fall off after 2 years. The hard inquiry section is another area you need to pay a lot of attention to, especially if you think you're the victim of identity theft. The victim's identity theft will see a number of hard inquiries where the identity thief has applied for credit in your identity. The next section after that will likely be public records. Public records, judgments are no longer reported on credit reports. Criminal convictions are no longer on credit reports. Basically, the only thing that can appear as a public record on a credit report is a bankruptcy. Most bankruptcies can appear for 10 years on your credit report. So keep an eye out for any information you don't recognize on your public records section of your credit report. Okay, this will get you through your 3 credit reports. Once you've been through a detailed analysis of your 3 credit reports, then you need to line up your 3 credit reports and go through them together. Look for each account on TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And remember, not every creditor reports to each bureau. Some creditors only report to TransUnion. Some report to only Equifax, or others to only Experian. Some report to 2 out of the 3, but most of them report to all 3. So line up your credit reports and find each account and make sure the same information is being reported on each credit report about each account. If there's something that is inaccurate on one of your credit reports, you can figure it out this way. If something is the same on Equifax and Experian but different on TransUnion, then it's important that you look at the dates it was last updated, because it may not have been updated on TransUnion as it was on Equifax or Experian. Typically, they're updated all about the same time, but like I said, this is up to the creditors. It's not up to you or the bureaus. So double check the dates things were updated and try to figure out if there's a simple explanation for the discrepancy. If there's not, then that could be the basis for a dispute also. So why do you need to go through everything in so much detail? Well, the more information you have, the better you can do your disputes. We're going to talk more about disputes in the next video, but all this analysis of your credit report is going to be the basis of your disputes. The more information you have, the more detail you have, and the less explanation you have for these discrepancies and errors, then the stronger the basis of your dispute. In other words, if there's some simple explanation for the difference between an amount that's on one report or another, or there's a simple explanation for why there's an inquiry you don't recognize on one report but not on another, then that's not going to make for a great dispute. I mean, that's something that's easily explainable. But if there's lots of things that don't make sense and you can't find any kind of an explanation for it, and you can find evidence that shows it shouldn't be there, then that's going to make for a much better dispute. We'll talk more about disputes in the next video, but at this point, we're identifying errors in your credit report. And the more you identify, the better off you are. All right, so let's take a look at some actual credit reports. Here we're looking at the credit reports somebody allowed us to look at. They're redacted, but they'll give us lots of information on what we're looking for. Okay, so here we are looking at an Equifax credit report. This one starts with the summary, and then it goes into credit accounts, or summary of credit accounts, and then revolving accounts. This is the same as current accounts or accounts in good standing. And this individual has a Discover Bank account in good standing. Good credit history here. Then mortgage accounts, then installment accounts. Following that, Equifax is reporting other accounts that are not easily identified as revolving mortgage or installment accounts, such as child support or rental obligations. This person does not have those. Consumer statements. You can make a consumer statement. They're saying here you can make a consumer statement to attach to your credit file to report more information. Personal information. Now, Equifax puts personal information later, but identification is your name, contact information, and these are all an employment history. These are all things you can clean up if they're pretty easily clean up if they're not accurate or not current. Inquiries. Now, this is hard inquiries. Inquiries that may impact your credit rating or credit score. These are made by companies with whom you have applied for a loan or credit. So you should recognize everybody that has made a hard inquiry on your credit. Soft inquiries, they do not impact your credit score. You should recognize, and they're made by credit grantors. You should recognize everybody who makes a soft inquiry as well. This one does not include promotional inquiries. Then there's public records. Equifax pulls its public records information from a third-party vendor, LexisNexis. So if you see any errors here, then you can dispute it with LexisNexis as well. Collections, this person does not have any collections. And then there's information here about your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. These disclosures are required. Okay, let's look at Experian. Okay, Experian has the at-a-glance section. And this person has 3 names and 6 addresses. I've seen people with many more names reporting victims' identity theft and many, many more addresses than this. If you see a whole lot more than you should, it's a small red flag. Sometimes there's an obvious explanation for the stuff. Sometimes there's not. This one is not showing a social. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Then accounts. This doesn't have anything about whether the accounts are in good standing or not. Public records, hard inquiries, soft inquiries, and I don't see anything about promotional inquiries on here. And then that's the report. Okay, and then the last one here is TransUnion. TransUnion starts with personal information. They mask the social security number. There's only one here, only one date of birth, an alias, some old addresses, some old phone numbers. A key for understanding accounts, a listing of satisfactory accounts, inquiries, regular inquiries, promotional inquiries. So here's some promotional inquiries. And account review inquiries, which are the same as soft inquiries. See, every credit bureau lays them out a little bit differently. And they use some slightly different names for these things, but they're all the same thing. So, and so that's 3 credit reports. So we've been over how to go over your credit report, why it matters, and we've looked at some sample credit reports. Look, the point of this is to identify errors in your credit report that could be artificially lowering your credit score and keeping you from getting credit, with an eye to correcting those. If those corrections fail, then it's time to consider litigation against the bureaus and or the furnishers that are the cause of this. Thanks for watching this video. If you have a question or comment, put it down below. I read as many of the comments as I can, reply to almost all of them. Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for our next video on how to dispute these things and try to get them off your credit report. Thanks for watching.